write-up with a survivor of breast cancer, because we have dedicated this month as the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we decided to have an interaction with Comfort. That's not her real name, just for the related issues of stigma, etc., that's happening in our communities about breast cancer and other related issues. We decided to, use a different name for her, an alias. But you'll find out about her moving story, and I tell you, you will love it. It's next. Tell us, what gave you the inclination that something was wrong with you in relation to your breast?
I remember somewhere 2017, at some point, I feel pain in my armpit area down to the right side of my right breast. I feel pain when I'm bathing, so when I'm scrubbing that side, okay? But I didn't really take it serious until the pain was becoming more serious. And then I examined the breast. Then I realized there was a lump in there, an unusual lump. That was when I realized something unusual was happening, because it was not the same as with the other left breast. So I knew it was something unusual and abnormal. But I didn't know anything about breast cancer at that time. So I wasn't scared, I wasn't afraid. I just thought it was one of those hormonal changes, and given time it would just go. That was what I thought. So I didn't give it any attention for 3 good months.
3 good months?
Yeah.
Within those 3 months, what was the feeling in your breast?
Pain, unbearable pain. The lump kept growing bigger.
First, you noticed it as a small lump?
Very small lump.
But at least your hand could feel it?
Yes, it could be felt.
Because of the pain?
Yes, it could be felt. It could be felt. And I believe even if it were not painful, you could still have felt it, because it grew to an extent that you could even see it with your eye. You see that side of the breast was swollen. And the pain was becoming so unbearable to an extent that I could not even put on bra. But believe you me, within that 3 months, I wasn't just sitting, though I didn't know it was breast cancer. As a Christian, I was praying, believing that whatever it was, it would just go, vanish, and that would be it. Until after 3 months, I realized that no, this could be something I need to consult a physician. It was then that I even drew my husband's attention to it, because I didn't know it was anything serious, so it was just by myself.
So for 3 months, you were experiencing the pain. Started slowly, then intense.
Very intense.
And by the close of the 3rd month, at which you wanted to make the decision to go and consult a physician or a hospital, you kept it away from your husband.
Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
I was 30.
You were 30 at the time. And ultimately, how did you first consult your husband about it, or tell her?
I told him I'm having this unusual pain in my lump, and I feel a lump in there. So I asked him to feel it too. So he felt the 2 breasts and also confirmed that, yeah, this is unusual. And he asked that immediately, the very next day, he'll follow you, even if I don't want to. He'll force me to the hospital. But within that time, I knew I had to consult a doctor. So I wasn't forced. He didn't have to force me.
Before these 3 months, and then you had to go and consult, did you know about breast cancer? Did you know that if there was any unusual changes in the breast, the shape of the breast, you had to then be alert?
Well, if I said I've not heard about breast cancer, I would have been lying. I've been hearing about breast cancer, but I never took the pain to understand what it was, the symptoms, and anything. I'd never bothered myself. So that was why it took me by surprise. I didn't know what it was, and I was living in ignorance with it. So it's part of the emotional aspect of the whole thing, that I was so ignorant, though the information was all over. I mean, I remember Dr. Wiafi every October, she's all over.
Dr. Beatrice Wiafi?
Yes. If I said I've never heard her talking about... Yes. If I said I've never heard it talking about breast, I would have been lying. But I was never bothered to know. I know there's something like breast cancer, but as to the symptoms, signs, or what to expect, no, nothing. That was why when I had lump in my breast, it was painful too. I never knew it could be cancer. It never even crossed my mind that it could be cancer. And it's part of my pains that I was ignorant when I shouldn't have been.
So we've come to the end of the 3rd month and you're making a decision. Where were you at the time? The day that you decided, no, this pain is unbearable. I think I need to go see a health facility or a physician.
I think whilst I was praying and believing that it would just vanish, whatever it is, it would just go, and it wasn't going. And I told myself that, well, it's something that is manifesting physical. So I need to get some attention, some physical attention for it. And whatever it was, I knew it could be taken care of once it has manifested physically. So I was home, and I think at the close of the day, we have this clinic behind our home, private clinic. So that was where we just walked to. And the doctor, I told him this was it for the past 3 months. I told him how long and how I've been feeling. And then he did some physical examination and asked that I go for an ultrasound scan. I remember the sonographer went back to him like twice before he himself came back again to do the ultrasound himself. Later on, I asked him why he had to do repeatedly, and he also has to come in. And he said the way the thing looked and felt, and the ultrasound scan was not detecting anything. He was not comfortable with it. That was why he kept repeating and repeating. But as it was, it didn't show that there was anything there that I should be worried or concerned about. But then he asked that I take an antibiotic for 7 days and then come back for review after 3 months. But within that 3 months, I should be observing the breast for any discharge, changing the breast size or color, and then there will be a peeling of the breast. So I think that was what prompted me. I didn't ask him what he was expecting actually, but when I got home, I went online, started researching on lumping breast, discharge. That was when breast cancer started popping up.
And so finally, did you get to see the specialist?
Yes, finally I got to see him.
You went through the protocol?
Yes, but I didn't wait for the 1 week to
you decided not to?
I told them even if I have to pay to see him, I will. And they saw how I was persisting, and they said, okay, so they made way for me to go and see him. So I saw him, I explained my anxiety to him, and he said, why not? He asked that I requested for the mammogram and then an ultrasound scan again, and I did the two. Well, on the mammogram didn't see anything, but the ultrasound scan saw something.
The mammogram?
Didn't see, yeah, but the ultrasound did.
The ultrasound?
Yes, please. I have this habit of, I try to, when I go for tests, no matter what it is, I try to read the report before I see the doctor. And with this case, it was full of jargons. You don't understand anything, they are medical jargons. But then the impression was highlighted, so, and it was coded. So I Googled the code, and I realized it was high suspicion of cancer.
You mean you tried to decode the medical language?
Yes.
So what you saw, you put in Google?
Yes.
And then the search results showed you?
It was high suspicion of
cancer.
I think it ran from 1 to 5, and my own was like 4B.
So it was in a grade?
It wasn't graded then, but it was code, like the suspicion was that high.
If you look at
yes, it was that high. So it was a scan that asked that further investigation be done, which is a biopsy. So before I got to the doctor, I knew what it was. So I told him I wanted it done immediately.
You wanted a biopsy?
Done immediately.
And did you know that if you get to the stage where you are doing a biopsy, you've got to the cancerous stage? I knew. At that time, what did you feel? How did you feel?
At that time, I think it was mixed feelings. I was angry, anxious.
Angry about?
Angry about the fact that I had wasted time. Angry about the fact that these are the medical practitioners that should have known better. Because I put myself in the shoes of others that had maybe, if I had just gone to the first person and had just realized how the story had been. So that formed part of the anger. The fact that I myself was ignorant in the first stage, that was also part of my anger. And afraid that I had wasted time, and by now perhaps it has invaded my whole body, and I might have only 1 week or 1 month to just live. You know, and anxiety.
You had gone to that stage of thinking?
Yes. And then the anxiety was, I don't know how the biopsy might say, because they told me that the biopsy was the conclusive
that will give you the real diagnosis.
Exactly. So what the ultrasound is suspecting could even be wrong. So once I do the biopsy, that should be it. So I did it. It's a very painful experience.
Eventually did the biopsy?
Immediately. I called home, they sent me the money, and then he did it for me immediately. He told me he could do it the next day, but I'll wait for him till evening time when he's done with his consultation. So that was what happened.
So did you wait at the hospital?
Yes,
or
please.
you went?
No, I waited.
You were that anxious?
Yeah, I was that anxious. And that doctor, I would say, was my savior. Because after the first biopsy result came, it didn't show cancer. But it asked that the lump should be removed. And he said, Comfort, you know something? From what I have seen,
he's experienced,
and what this result is saying, he will prefer I repeat the biopsy again.
What word did you use?
Biopsy.
No, yes. You repeat it?
Yes, I repeat it. He said I should repeat it again. It was my prayer that after the biopsy is to come out that it's not cancer. So that was a moment of joy for me. And I'm like, what is doc thinking? Is it by force that I should have breast cancer? Now they said it's not breast cancer. So because I so much believed in that particular examination. But I took the pain, went through it again, and he asked that I send a sample to a different facility. So that was when the result came out that it was breast cancer.
It was cancerous.
It was cancerous. And then he advised that he has to do the surgery immediately because it's just a piece of the tumor that had given that result. So he's not able to tell the extent of damage, the grading and all that. So he has to immediately remove the lump so that it will go for further test.
How did you feel by then? Because removing your lump, and I know that in Africa, your womanhood is the breast give testimony or testify to your womanhood.
Yes. Though at that moment, I was beginning to be hopeful because he assured me that he's believing that it's not too late.
Okay.
And that it has been caught in time.
So it means that now, gradually, you were psyching yourself up that I was not going to die after all.
Yes. And then the fact that...
And you were ready that if you could lose your breast.
And that moment, he said it is not necessary for him to take the whole breast off. He could take the lump and then parts of the breast. They look at certain things before they come to that decision. So it's not all the time that they, immediately take the whole breast. Because my breast was a bit big, and where the lump was, if the location of the lump, if we should take it and then take part of the breast, what will be left will still look like breast. So I agreed with him that he should just take the lump, because either he did that or he takes the whole breast off. So we agreed that he could just take the lump and then part of the breast. So that was what was done, and then it went back to the lab again, and then the confirmation came back again. It was not just one kind of cancer; it was two different kind of cancers that was even detected when the whole lump and part of the breast was taken off.
Say that again. So there are two different types. You mean two different type of lumps?
No, or cancers.
Cancers?
Yes, because it was...
What did it mean?
It's detected the colon cancer and then the ductal cancer.
The ductal cancer.
Yeah, and from what has been explained to me, the colon is invasive, but it's not aggressive. And then the ductal that was seen was instru, meaning it was in its place where it started from. It has not spread.
So eventually the surgery
was successful.
Happened.
It happened.
Was successful?
Yes, and he referred me to Kolebu for further management. So I went to Kolebu, and my surgeon then informed me that what the results were saying, it was hormonal positive. So I might not do chemo. I might just do maybe radiation and then the hormonal therapy. When you have cancer and you begin to read about your treatment option, I think what scares most of us most is the chemotherapy, because of what we hear around and all that, the misconceptions and the misinformation.
So which one did you do?
I did chemo. I eventually did all. I ended up doing all. So when I got to Kolebu and they told me I had to do chemo, I think that was one of the downsides of my journey. I was terrified.
You were emotionally down?
I was terrified, because what I heard was you do chemo and you die. all the cells in
was
you.
Was it just a perception?
It was a perception. After going through it, I'm still alive, so I know it's just misinformation. Okay, so I was terrified.
Okay, so you went through chemo.
I went through chemo.
And,
I lost my hair.
Your beautiful hair.
My beautiful, I lost it. And it was one of the emotional moments. I had this natural braid. It was just falling out.
Oh, the natural braids that women do these days?
Yeah, I had my natural hair that was twisted. It just fell out one. You wake up and your bed, your pillow is like, you have like 10.
Tell me about that experience. You mean you sleep overnight, you wake up, and you see falling off hair on the pillow? On the pillow.
There are times that you'll be walking and maybe it will just fall. You have to pick. You feel it on your neck and you pick and you see that the hair that has fallen. And if you're not, if you feel you cannot endure that traumatic moment, I mean, waiting for all of it to just fall, you just go and then shave the rest off.
Scrape it off.
Yeah. So that was what I did.
You went to the barber?
I went to the barber.
At that time, you kept it all to yourself, or you went to a barber not in your neighborhood?
I went to a neighborhood barber, and he did something very funny after shaving the whole thing off, because I'm sure he knew something was wrong. I mean, a hair just falling, because most of it had fallen before I went there. So after barbering, he picked the whole thing and gave it to me. And I asked that, when you finish barbering, do you pack the hair for your clients? And he said no. So I didn't know why he packed the hair.
I think he suspected some superstition around it. That maybe something like a witchcraft or something.
Perhaps.
Or somebody had juju you or something.
Perhaps.
Okay. Before we get on to the next stage of your journey, after, or let's say you going through the therapies, whether chemo and radiation, all this while, your community, your church, your family, your friends, how did you manage that? You know, keeping to yourself, being reclusive and all that. How did you manage that?
My pastor even didn't know about my diagnosis. It was, even my mom didn't know. So it was just my mom, my husband, and then the close family that was in the house with me. They were the only people that knew. And it was not surprising. When I lost my hair, it didn't raise any suspicion, because I was fond of cutting my hair. I used to go Davi before I started the natural braid. So when the hair went down, nobody suspected maybe it was because of something.
You were not the person who usually for a long time would put on weave-ons
no.
the hair. No,
there were times I just bobbed my head down.
So it was like just a natural transition
exactly
for you.
To the outside world, but I knew I had lost something. I knew I was going through something, and I put up a strong face. Though I was going through pain, when I'm out there, even at home, I try to be positive. I tried to be hopeful, because before the cancer diagnosis, I had other medical conditions that almost killed me. So it was very emotional moments for my family. That was why I could not even inform my mom, because she would not be able to take it.
You were putting them through so much emotional pain?
Yes, so I felt I had to be strong for all of us. Because if I'm to be expressing the pains, my fears, and I'm sure they'll start mourning me before, if I'll die, I'll even die. So I try to be positive. When I go to the hospital, I come back, I don't tell them the whole story. Just what I know they can take. So they were supporting me, but they didn't know that I was even supporting them even more. So I think that was how it was. So it was necessary that for my own good, they take the whole breast.
So it was taken off?
It was taken off.
Now, after that?
I went for radiotherapy. And then...
Same pain?
No, radiotherapy isn't that painful. The only stress is it's an everyday thing. If your fraction is 25 days, it will mean that you'll be going and coming every day for 25 days. But mine was 16 days. Mine was cut down to 16 days after the mastectomy. So I went. So I mean, that was a stress. It gives you this kind of fatigue. You feel stressed out and all that. But I think among all the treatment, at least in my case, the radiotherapy was the best for me. Yeah.
It's been an emotional journey for Comfort. She's telling her story. But after the treatment, going through chemo and radiation, how did she go through that journey of ultimately being strong once again? Comfort. Post-treatment, what did you go through?
Post-treatment, life never becomes the same again. Life has not been the same. Why do I say that? after treatment, you're still living in fear of reoccurrence because you are never told what caused even the initial one. So yeah, you don't know if you are still exposed to the same kind of hazard. And the side effects of the treatment, some of them are long-term. So in terms of the fatigue, your menses not coming, and I mean, those kind of feelings. Because as I'm sitting down here, I had my chemotherapy. That was like January of this year, but I still suffer from some of the side effects, which is okay because I'm still alive. If I don't say it, you will not even know. I think it's okay. So it's never the same. It's never the same.
Some of the side effects are?
For me, it's the fatigue.
You get tired?
Get very tired.
As if you've worked and carried some loads for the whole day.
Exactly. But we are told it's a matter of time as time goes on, because like the body has gone through something and it's now trying to rebuild itself up. So once we take care of our diet and our lifestyle, we bounce back like nothing ever happened. Because I've spoken with other survivors that are years ahead of me, and I realize there is hope.
Okay,
so as difficult as today is...
How many years after treatment are they still around?
Oh, I mean, recently I met someone who's been around like 38 years. Yeah, so that is very inspiring. A Ghanaian. Very, very
So what inspiring. Do you do? What do you do to encourage others? Are you involved in any kind of a plan of action? Do you do education? What do you do? I
think during my treatment, when I was still having treatment, I knew how difficult it was to have it, to be alone, for not having anybody that understands what you were going through. It's very difficult getting survivors to get inspiration from them. We are always hiding. I don't know why. So I put myself up front. So those that I was ahead of in terms of treatment, in the hospital, I revealed myself and told them I will be there when anybody needs anybody, like maybe I had done surgery already. So if somebody is afraid going for surgery, they can call on me to come and encourage the person. When somebody is afraid to do chemo, for the fear of losing hair that may never come back, I put myself up. I go show my hair that has grown back to the person. So that's what I've been doing. So I have a circle of friends to some of us.
Has it been working?
Yeah, it has been working. And I volunteer at the surgical department along with the clinical psychologist.
At Kolebu?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I volunteer.
Comfort, let me ask you a question. You know, sometimes you watch TV and visibly you could see people who had difficulties with their breaths. They are in these churches, they are in these programs, and they're giving all sorts of promises. And how do you feel about it?
I feel sad. I feel sad because all the stories I've heard so far, I mean, how do I put it? Stories that have ended, I mean, on a sad note are people...
In terms of the patients dying?
The patient dying are people who have refused the, let me say, the conventional treatment, that is the hospital treatment, and have gone out to seek for other treatment. So far, I'm here to meet anyone who has done, who has
gone through that and
survived. I'm yet to. Although I'm a strong believer and know that God is capable of healing cancer without you taking anything, it is still my belief that we can't force God to do things the way we want it. I am here. I prayed for healing. I believed He would heal me. I didn't know how He was going to heal me, but I trusted Him and I played my part, knowing that He has given me the wisdom.
But do you think there will ever come a time when you could show your face physically, I mean, to the world and say brazenly, I have survived this, I'm still surviving, I'm still a survivor, get to know me?
That time will come.
That time will come.
It will surely come.
It will surely come.
The world should give me time. Yes. I'm still healing.
We have all the time for you, Comfort. And it's been Comfort. Comfort is not her real name, but she's sharing her story of being a survivor of breast cancer. It is the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you can see that all of us have these ribbons just to show that we are all in it together. The statistics indeed show from the World Health Organization that for all the fatalities or the deaths that are recorded annually, 58% of these deaths are recorded in countries like ours and the rest of the developing world. Just think about it. Not only should you get tested, but also get more information. We have to take a break. You're still watching the AM show.